right. Hello, 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 everyone. We'll be getting starting soon. Tonight on Books and Bounty Live, we have the creator of the Affinity Saga, author Eddie D. Williams. Tonight we'll discuss the characters, themes, and action scenes in Book 1 of the Affinity series, The Affinity Theory. We'll chat about his pathway to storytelling, inspirations, why it's important to depict daily practices for better mental health and self-care in a Black superhero story, the feedback loop between his editor and other readers, and what's up next for the series. Stick around after the intermission for a look at the program for the first Ink and Inspiration experience, plus a live review of Yellow Stringer 1 by Jean-Louis and Jones, and grab a book and read with me while I snuggle in with Sadiqa Johnson's The House of Eve. And right before the ads, we'll be back with Eddie after the ads. We'll be starting in a few minutes. But until then, a bit of updates on Ink and Inspiration. I want you to be able to celebrate the power of words in community at Ink and Inspiration, an intimate bookish experience, an intimate bookish experience for Black writers, readers, and voices of colors on February 8th, 2025 in Nottingham, Maryland. The first in a series of curated literary events features engaging panels, groundbreaking research, transformative writing workshops, all designed to amplify your literary prowess and foster meaningful connections. Our special guests include Michelle Evans, acclaimed poet and educator, Dr. J.T. Rohn, sharing his profound research on June Jordan's political and intellectual vision, and dive into writing workshops with Nicole Yard, explore the traveling book nook, and shop a vibrant book fair filled with local vendors and must-read titles. Tickets start at just $25 for a 2-hour session or $5 or $50 for an all-access day pass. Vendors showcase your work with a table for $85 or in the traveling book nook for only $45. Be a part of this extraordinary celebration of culture, creativity, and community. So mark your calendar for February 8th and visit booksandbounty.com/events to secure your spot today. All right, y'all. Sorry about the bit of the tongue tweezer there. I have been recording audio spots for Ink and Inspiration promo all day. We'll be bringing Eddie on in just a second. Ads are going to start momentarily, so I don't want to bring him on quite yet. We'll switch the scene, but just bear with us for 1 second, and then we'll get started with Eddie in about a minute and a half. Until then, you guys can enjoy the chill lo-fi sounds of chill hop music. As you know, Chill Hop is celebrating their 10th anniversary, so I'm going to throw on some of their greatest hits. They have a generous content creator licensing program. So head on over to chillhopmusic.com, tell them Books and Bounty sent you. And I'll go ahead and put on the lo-fi while we wait for the ad break. Let's go see how Eddie's doing. Hey, Eddie, we'll be starting in a minute. Let's see, who do we have joining us right now? Oh, right. All right, Eddie. Let's see here. We're going to get started. I think the ad's just finished. Oh, no. The ad break. Oh, so we're on an ad break right now, Eddie. It ends in about 2 minutes and 49 seconds. So if you want to go ahead and, warm up some tea real quick or whatever, what have you, get comfortable, just sit tight for a second. And while that's happening, I think I'm going to go refill my tea a little bit. Ad break. Oh, it's no milk. I swear to God, I'm gonna go there's some milk. I do not know God. Oh. Hi, Eddie D. Welcome.
What's up? What's up? How you doing?
I'm doing well. I have a very brief introduction and then we'll get right into tonight's interview. And I'm just going to read off the page a little bit because I don't want to mess this up. But pardon me, I have been recording audio spots for the Ink and Inspiration promo reels and PSAs that are going out. So if my voice is a little shot or I'm a little tongue-tied, please excuse me.
Quite all right. Quite all
All
right.
right.
Busy, busy.
Yes, yes, yes. So known to many of you on social media as Eddie D. Writes, Eddie is a native of Georgia, a devoted Christian, father, and licensed marriage and family therapist. He draws inspirations from his study of relationships and action-packed series like Mission Impossible and Marvel. Many of those experiences found their way into Eddie's debut novel, The Infinity Theory, which I've read. You guys read it with me over the last week or so. And so we're here to talk about this book, what's next for the book. It's a few things upcoming, and more about how Eddie got into storytelling. So first and foremost, Eddie, how are you? Um,
I can't complain, man. I can't complain. It's been a good day. It's been a good week. Been a good week, and it's only Tuesday.
Tell me about it. What's been so good about this week?
Oh man, therapy's been therapying, as always. So
Hmm.
it's always good to get back into kind of the swing of things when it comes to some of the clients that I have. The holidays have ended, so I'm always interested to see how the holidays treat people for better or for worse. And so that's been an interesting week to see how things have been kind of going for some of them. Some great, some not so much. But it's always a nice little kind of puzzle to start the week off with. And then um, book wise, we've just been selling books like crazy. We sold 22 yesterday, sold 17 today.
Keep it coming. Keep it
And so
coming.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Hey, listen, I'm like, come on, bring this. Like, hey, you want them? Come get them. You want them? Come
Yes.
get them. We're gonna sell them like hotcakes.
Yes. Booked and
Um,
busy in all kinds of ways.
exactly. So that's been good. And then the kids got back to they got a holiday, so they had the day off yesterday. Went back today. Wife's doing good, so it's just all good, man. All good in the neighborhood.
So, how's the weather where you are?
It's cold. It's
Mm,
cold. We were supposed to be getting snow, but we live in this kind of pocket swamp area,
mm.
and so while everybody else around us is getting snow, we're just getting freezing rain. So it feels like a typical rainstorm. Nothing serious happening. We may get maybe like centimeter,
Something.
half a
Mm-hmm.
centimeter of snow by the time it
A little
all ends.
dusting.
But yeah, but
Yeah.
it's just really cold. That's all. It's really cold for South Georgia anyway.
Yeah, it's frigid up here in Baltimore. We
Oh
I
gosh,
live
yeah.
in I live off of a creek myself, an inlet and
Mm,
peninsula. It's a peninsula within a peninsula. It's inlet, and so
mhm,
often that happens to us too. Like everyone else will be getting 6, 10 inches, or maybe not that much up here, but 5, 6 inches, and
mhm,
we'll get maybe 1 or 2, if that. But lately, we've been
mhm.
seeing a little bit of it, and it's just so cold. It's so cold.
So cold.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
I was like, I'm glad I work from home. I don't have to go anywhere. I can stay
Yeah,
right here in my
I could
house.
use a little bit of help from Simone and others to help heat things
Listen,
up here because it's
okay, I just need
freezing.
you just give me 1 star.
Just
You can give me half a star.
just put
Half
it
a
right.
star.
Just let
That's
it
all I need.
follow
Put it
me
right there. Just
around.
let it. That's all I need. That's all. I'll be good. My instant little heat, my little instant little space heater. Just give me half a star. It'll keep me good for a day. I love it.
So for those who don't know, Simone is one of the main characters in the Affinity theory. She's also known as Starburst, and
Mhm,
she is on a team of elite powered Black folk um, working for the company, under the lead of Malcolm, also known as KC. I'll let you find out what that means when you read the book. Some others on their team include Duncan, aka Ammo. And his name is exactly what it means. He is power all the way. Then we have Carl, who is Mammoth, who, this is Carl. And Carl, honey, that's Carl right there.
yeah.
I want to learn a little bit more about
Chocolate thunder.
Carl.
Chocolate thunder.
And oh, yes. And what I love about Carl is that he didn't have a lot to say, but when he said something, it was so poignant and on point and like
and
spot on, you know?
mm, every
So
time.
every
Yes.
time. And then we have, who else do we have? We have Blitz, who is oh my goodness. Why is her name not coming to me? Hold on. Blitz is, hold on. This is the one that I always forgot in the beginning. I'm like,
Hmm.
who is this
Hmm.
girl just zipping around? Daisy. Daisy is
Yeah.
Blitz. And
Yeah.
Blitz is super fast, and not just fast speed. Like she is like a super quantum computer in her brain, right? She processes
Hmm.
things fast. She has high metabolism, and I want to talk about some of
Hmm.
these things, right? Like the curse, the gift and the curse of some of these powers.
Yes.
Hmm. And then we have Malaysia, who's Eagle. She's the eye in the sky and everywhere else. We have
Hmm.
Alexia, who's another one of my favorites. That's Enchantra.
Hmm.
She's a mage, so to speak. She has incantations and magical powers. And then we
Hmm.
have a slew of nefarious folks, hostiles, and
Yes.
more, right?
Yes.
So this is an amazing story. And what I didn't really like, when I finally took a breath at the end, right? It's a 500 pager. I read it in about, I would say, give or take, about 5 or 6 days,
Hmm.
which is impressive for me at my age. Let me tell you, I kept turning those pages. And um, I got to the end of the story and I was just like, every freaking character was black. So that was freaking awesome.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yes.
And what was a fun experience with us is that when I first started reading it, you were in the chat while I was reading it live often and engaging with some of the feedback, and
Hmm.
there were so many moments that, like, as a black woman, as a locked black woman, I was just like, oh no, he has, who is in his family, who is around him, how does he know these types of things about how we feel about locks?
Yeah.
Like, for example,
Yeah. Yeah.
ladies,
Yeah.
one of the characters sees another character's beautiful set of braids, and she's a locked woman, and she said, and she that's one of the only times she's envious or misses, like, wishes she didn't have locks or something. And I was just like, me too. The only time I miss the before locks is when I see
Yeah.
an awesome architect sculpted braided look,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
cannot
Yeah.
participate.
Yeah.
So tell us, so let's start there. Tell us about, let's start with one, where did this storytelling, where did, because I know when we first talked, it was such like a ball of bursting, a starburst that had to get out of you. It had to explode and
Mhm.
onto paper. So tell us
Mhm.
a little bit how storytelling came to you, and then a little bit around the inspiration for the Infinity Saga.
Yeah, so I've been a storyteller since I was 4 years old. Um, Going in the backyard and playing games with my brothers, sisters, cousins. We'd all invent these
Mm.
fantastical stories about whatever it was that we were watching on TV. So if it was Power Rangers, it was X-Men, it was American Gladiators, Legends of the Hidden Temple, Doug, Rugrats, and Ren and Stimpy, and then Bold and the Beautiful, Guiding Light, Days of Our Lives, Young and the Restless. We go in the backyard and create all these fantastical stories of all this stuff that we've been watching on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so it just manifested itself from there. Just all of a whole slew of us were just gifted storytellers, always trying to keep each other engaged, always trying to keep each other entertained. Um, we all at the time lived in my grandmother's house. So growing up, it was my grandmother, my grandfather's house, and their 5 children. They were all living in the house together, and so
Mm-hmm.
all of us, so the 5 of them, and then all of the kids. So they got of the grandparents, the parents, and the kids all living in the same house for a good 7 or 8 years of my life. So imagine all of us just keeping each other entertained all the time, all the
All the
time.
time.
So TGIF, Family Matters, and Step by Step, and all of them. Again, we're devouring everything that we see on TV and then mimicking what we see on repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And so that just translated over into the middle stages where I've got these fantastical ideas of what life is supposed to be about and trying to exact those things in my
Mm-hmm.
relationships, and it never
Mm-hmm.
came to fruition because I'm over here romanticizing, but it ain't never coming to pass.
Mm-hmm.
But and so then couple that with I'm in the ministry, and all we do is try to keep people engaged,
Yep.
because again, you hit a low moment, people going to sleep on you while you're trying to tell a story about the Lord. And so we got to keep people engaged in that. And so that just further enhanced my craft. Like, how do I tell a good story? How do I keep people engaged, give them truth, but keep them engaged? And so having to be, I'm a master at word, at being at a wordsmith, and being able to keep people entertained and engaged. um so fast forward to 2021. I had just lost the church that I was pastoring because the pandemic hit. And at the time, they were wanting me to tell people, still give your money. And I'm like, dude, half of us ain't got jobs. What money? I can't,
And
I
that
can't pay
shows you the
these
spirit in
people.
your heart. You couldn't do it proper.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
just saying. And so
Mm-hmm.
I told him I can't do it. And so they found their
Mm-hmm.
way to get me about the church. And so in the midst of an identity crisis, for me trying to figure out, was I really supposed to be a preacher or not, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
My friend, my best friend at the job at the time, basically dared me. She was like, "You got all this talent. Why aren't you writing something? You got all this talent. Why aren't you
Oh,
writing
best
something?"
friend. That's what I'm talking about.
And just kept pressing the button. Just kept pressing
Mm-hmm.
the button. You written something yet? Have you written something yet? Have you written something yet?
Yes.
Fine. So lo and behold, take all the things that I love about stories, all the things I've seen about the MCU, DC, the cop shows that I love, and then combine that with all of the identity crises that I was dealing with at the time. All of the characters in the affinity theory are an extension of me. And so when you're seeing them going through the issues that they're going through in
Right.
some way, shape, or form, that's something that I've gone through. And so that's where it burst from.
Yeah, because as a lot of the characters, you'll see the book opens in a moment where one of the main characters, Malcolm, is having to go through grounding techniques in order to start his day and focus himself and also contain his powers. And as you read along, you'll realize that Malcolm essentially is a super empath and literally can take on the weight of the world. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and there's another moment where, and I think one of the teammates helps her out with this, where Alasia, who's Enchantra at the time in the moment, is about to have like a panic anxiety attack in the middle of a battle or something. And I think a
Mm-hmm.
friend or
Mm-hmm.
something reminds her of who she is and, you
Mm-hmm.
got this. And so those
Mm-hmm.
moments appear throughout the novel. Your experience with therapy, also your own journey, interpersonal journey. Why is it to me like I can't hardly put the words that I want to express this in, but it seems so essential to express and depict good mental health practices, self-care when you're talking about black people as superheroes, right? And if you think about that metaphor or depiction of us, black girl magic, strong black woman, strong black man, can put the weight of the world on your shoulders. You just got to get through things. You can't, you got to be tough, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed important to me to recognize that, particularly among superheroes. What's some of the impact that you would like this story to have on folks?
The main thing that I wanted, well, several main things, but the main one of those main things that I wanted this story to have is a certain level of realism. Because when we watch superhero movies and TV shows, I Captain America: Civil War,
Okay.
in the when they're all sitting at the table
Mm-hmm.
and the colonel comes in and tells them, since y'all started blowing stuff up, y'all haven't really realized the impact y'all have had on the world.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first time
Mm-hmm.
in a superhero story, you're watching the heroes recognize, oh, we've been hurting folk. Yeah, we've been saving the world, but we're actually messing a whole lot of people's lives up. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
reason why Iron Man was like, no, we got to be put in check because we are actually hurting people while we're out here doing what we're doing. Again, still the wrong choice,
Right.
but it made sense because it's
Right.
like, dude, no, we are actually out here hurting people. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm out here doing my thing, but I didn't realize I, got caused a kid lose whole life. And so for me, I didn't want to tell another superhero story where it felt like these heroes were so untouchable. I
Right.
wanted the heroes to have a
Right.
certain element of realism to them, to where when I read these pages, I could see me in this. Like, this is stuff that I go through on a regular basis, and it's not really emphasized as much here as it will be in especially in book two. But they paying bills. They just saying they paying bills. They living lives. They gotta eat. They gotta take a shower. They gotta go to sleep. They gotta get up the next
Mm-hmm.
day and go
Mm-hmm.
debrief, get chewed out by bosses. These are all the things that we go through on a regular basis. And so for me, it was important to stress the impact that our everyday lives of trying to be the heroes in our stories takes on us. It,
Yeah,
it takes a toll
it
on
does.
us.
Yeah.
And a lot of the superhero stories that I've read or the superhero stories that I've seen, they didn't really express or emphasize that, not until at least the MCU, because
Mm-hmm.
between that
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the later MCU projects, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, they really start to show you, oh no, these jokers are going through stuff. like the blip really affected them when Thanos did the snap. That affected them, and it affected them all differently. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was important for me to have that love, that element of realism in it, to let us know it's okay to be human. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay to be going through things. Like, you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. That's Malcolm's main problem all
Mm-hmm.
book long. Dude, you're trying to do all this stuff by yourself. Every time you go through something, you go off and be on your own. Got a whole team, got your back,
Right,
but you
riding for
always
you.
going off.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. And the rest of the team just done got used to it by now, so they ain't worried
Right.
about it. It's like he'll come back to his senses, but you got Simone over here. Oh no, you gonna talk to me? Oh no, you
And
gonna be my
forces her way right on in
you
there.
gonna say something to me? Ain't nobody got time for that. You gonna stop doing this for us? You know, like, time for this. You see how we got beat up? We can't keep doing this. You gonna talk to me,
Can't.
doggone it?
Right. And so
So
speaking
yeah.
of Malcolm, and because ultimately he is an awesome leader, right? Although
Hmm.
we do experience some of his growth as a leader, um, we all the team admires his team admires him, his director admires him, and of course Simone admires him.
Yeah, she
Um,
does.
but there are various sort of leadership archetypes that you sort of take a gander at throughout the story. There's Malik, which is the director. She is
Hmm.
a woman director. She is the leader of the Eurocity division of the company.
Hmm.
Then you have some folks under her, such as Stephanie, who runs the intelligence division. And
By the way, that correlation was so dope. I'm like, yes, I think I've
Stephanie,
captured who I want to be my character.
the
I didn't know I
the
conjured
one
you.
who looks
I
at.
didn't know I conjured you. That was perfect. I was like, yes,
But
okay.
honestly, I felt like Alasia had more of my personality.
She does. Oh no, she does.
Yeah,
Hands down, hands
I think
down.
she had,
Absolutely.
and I love the dialogue. The dialogue between when, especially when it's 101 between friends, or like when Carl and Malcolm had their moments, or
Hmm.
when Simone and Alexia were out to lunch and were talking.
Hmm. Hmm.
Those conversations seemed so organic. Like
Yes.
he's heard this conversation. It was like something. This is something that he had to ensure these kinds of conversations were in there because
Yes.
it's a moment of just like black women kikiing and having a bit of
Yeah.
joy, and despite
Yeah.
everything going on around them. And then
Yeah.
the friendship, the reliable and loyal friendship between Malcolm and Carl, but it's not like
Hmm.
a bestie overbearing thing. Like it's like
Right.
Carl knows exactly when to make his move on Malcolm to get him in
Hmm.
line kind of thing.
Hmm.
And those it
Hmm.
seems so organic, and I really want to give you kudos to that because I know that that can be difficult for a lot of writers, especially
Hmm.
as much dialogue as you had these characters to engaged in on a regular basis. So I
Hmm.
really did
Hmm.
enjoy, especially the conversations with the girls. They would that was a really good treat for me.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about that. We have a few different leads because
Yeah.
we also have the collector, who is the villain. And let's just say
Yes.
in their own right, I'm going to try my best to do that
Yes.
because there's some twists and turns about the collector I do
Yes.
not want to
Yes.
reveal. But they
Yes.
are their leader in their own right. So I think a lot of your
Yes.
story has an observation on leadership and the different qualities of them. What
Hmm.
in your life as a father, as a former leader of a church, what are some leadership aspects or qualities that you hope come to the forefront, not only in this book but in your everyday life?
So for me, I pray every day to be the type of leader that is able to help a person be the best version of themselves. That's what I prided
Mm-hmm.
myself in
Mm-hmm.
being from the time that I've ever stepped into a leadership role of any kind, whether somebody put me in it or whether I asked for it. My life has always been, it brings me joy to be able to see somebody become the best version of themselves. Um, and so that's the type of leader I've always wanted to have in my life. So when you see Malik, who knows exactly how to talk to
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm, knows
Yep.
exactly how to talk to Malaysia, knows exactly how to talk to any of the people, whether it be in a group or whether one on one, she is the epitome of the leader that I want in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been blessed to have maybe like one or two people to actually be that for me in the history of my, time of having leaders in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody else is either trying to mold me into their image, or they just underutilize, my skill set, for whatever reason, for their own agendas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I get a lot of that from, again, what I would want for myself and what I've seen from TV shows, and from most of the TV shows where you have those types of leaders in that role.
Yeah.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Rookie, 911. What's the other one? Um, yeah, the MCU, Director Fury. He's always using people and utilizing their skill set. How can I best use this person? When he was talking to the Hulk in the first Avengers, he was like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I don't want your Hulk. I actually just want your intellect. Because we trying to find this dude who's got this tesseract. I don't know nothing about it, but you do.
That's good. That's good observation. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, the man is like, listen,
Yeah.
I don't care about the Hulk. I don't need the Hulk. I need what you know about gamma radiation, because clearly you're the Hulk. That's where you came from. So nobody else knows it better than you. You can
Mm-hmm.
help us find this tesseract. Once you found it, you can go home. And so again, he's always using the what is your skill set? How can I maximize the output by putting you in the best position? And so that's the type of leader that I've always wanted to be. It's the type of leader that Malik is, and it's bled down to Malcolm, except Malcolm doesn't realize that what he's doing is working, no, I'm sorry. Even though what he has done has worked,
Mm-hmm.
he's now in a higher form of war. And so it requires him doing
Gotta
something
level up.
different.
Yep.
Right,
Gotta
exactly.
level
And
up,
so
literally.
and so to that
Yeah.
end,
Uh-huh.
everything he was doing was right on brand with the company. Like, figure out how to
Mm-hmm.
maximize your team skills. So he told him, train, 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 but he never would get in the room. And so now it's like, dude, we just got our hands handed to us. We can't just go in this room and beat up on
Right.
simulators. Like, we actually need to
Fight.
beat up on each other.
You
And
gotta
so
interact, be able to anticipate spontaneity and how humans
yes.
gonna fight and all of that.
Exactly, exactly. And so to that end, that's why you see the change in leadership in him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, you see the change. You don't see a change per se, but you see the leadership style of the collector as well, where they're trying to move certain pieces in certain directions. And so a lot of the leadership you see from the collector is coming from persuasion. Let me whisper
Mm-hmm.
something to you. Let
Mm-hmm.
me say something to you to, go to kind of stroke your ego.
Yep.
And in doing so, it'll make you, more inclined and more malleable. You
It's
can
much more
do,
calculated style.
yes,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
moving chess pieces on the board. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so you get to see a lot of that happening throughout the book, and it'll be throughout the saga as well. But all those things, are the manifestations of a lot of things that I do. Because in some rooms, I've learned you can't just go in with brute strength. Sometimes you gotta,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
lead them with honey, then with vinegar.
Yep.
Sometimes you gotta go in with a heavy hand. Sometimes you gotta lead them with kindness.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, as you learn your people, you learn how
Yep.
they are and how they operate, you'll know what best to do in order to get them to move in a certain direction, for the betterment of the whole. So yeah, man, that's where a lot of the leadership tactics came from in that regard.
Now, speaking of tactics, I want to talk a little bit more technically about your sort of editing process,
Yeah.
um, the feedback you've gotten from folks like me and other readers, and how that's influencing your next steps in the series, the next steps for this particular book. So let's start with a little bit about, you talked about this earlier, about keeping people engaged, keeping people entertained. And I was just like, oh, first book, 500 pages. Is he going to be able to do it? Like, am I
I
going to want
know.
to, right? Is he
I
going to be able to? But you did it. And me, I'm an editor. So I'm like,
know.
Oh, that's making me want to turn the page. Like, what is going to happen then? Like, I'm going through, like, so
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
my,
yeah,
these
yeah,
are all
yeah.
my reading notes
Listen, I
from,
saw him. I was like, oh man, I pay you for that book. I need that book in my life. Like, how much do you want for
and
the
I'm
book?
like, look, and I'm like, oh, I need maps of Uri City. How does that grow
I
in book
know.
2? Do we get to go
Working on
outside
it.
of Uri City? And like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
and the
yeah.
what is it? What is it named? I wrote this one down. The Asylum for the Uncontrollable. So
Yeah,
now that could,
listen.
now that could be totally go left horror thriller.
Listen, I didn't even think about
Go
that till I saw the note you put in today. I'm
off
like,
the
dude, don't
rails.
even get me started. Don't even get me started. Cause now you got the gears running. I'm like, I'm gonna have to put phone pause real quick.
Like,
Cause
oh, I want
that
that
might be
story.
dope
Like,
AF. Like, what? What?
does someone we know need to spend time there at some point? Like, my
Listen.
imagination went. I had a dream about it. Like, I really was just like, oh, that could be an awesome story.
Listen. Don't get my brain going, okay? Because that'd be like a nice little detour. These 9 books will never get done at this point.
But
Because
like
I'm like,
speaking
what?
of those detours, like and building up that backlog of characters and
Yeah,
stories and the
yeah.
world building around it, you
Hmm.
have some big news to tell us about the series and what's coming next.
Yeah. No, so I mean, listen, the saga is gonna be a trilogy. So by
Okay.
the time the saga's finished, it's gonna be 9 books.
Okay.
It was supposed to start at 7. It was supposed to be 7. But I was able to, as I thought about how 4, 5, and 6 are supposed to go, it's gonna demand that 7, 8, and 9 be written to finish it off. And so it will be a trilogy of trilogies at the end of it all. 1, 2, and 3 are already written in terms of their manuscripts. 4 is currently in production. And we're in the second I have the second book in my editor's hands right now. Um, but the thing about the process is that I have been very fortunate to have more people get their eyes on it. And that's what was important to me. Because what I didn't want is to have a bunch of yes men saying, oh, your book is great.
Right.
I found some
Right.
people who can be brutally honest with me. Like,
Yep.
tell me whether this is trash.
Yep.
Because if it's trash, I don't need to
Mm-hmm.
put this out in the public. I don't put a name on it. I ain't got time. If it ain't worth it,
You
leave it
don't want to do
alone.
it.
I
You
ain't
don't
even
want to do
listen.
it.
I don't
Look.
even want it for what? For what? And so the first time that I wrote it, um, the person that I let see it didn't even get through the book. They were
Mm-hmm.
like, I can't see it. I can't see your book. It's a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of dialogue. And true enough, it was.
And I can
And
tell
I
that's where you find your comfort zone. Is definitely I knew it. Like
mm-hmm,
that is where you
mm-hmm,
find your comfort
mm-hmm.
zone. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and part of that,
It's
going
your
back to one of the
profession.
things
Yeah.
you said
Mm-hmm.
earlier about the conversations.
Mm-hmm.
um that I was in the room where it happens,
Mm-hmm.
where I get to watch people let me in their space and watch them talk.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at work, for instance. I'm a therapist, so I'm a male in this field, one of the few. And so in a room full of women,
Mm-hmm.
I know when to bow out. Oh no, this ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm finna just go eat my lunch by myself. They're like, no, come in, sit down. Huh? You want me to what? Hmm? You want me? You want me in this room? Are you okay? And like a good little soldier, sat down and I'm taking notes. Oh, so this is what they say when they do this. Or this is girl, please. Like, okay, let me so put that down. Okay, all right. So I'm literally in the room where it happens, where they're having these conversations, and they're just letting me
Mm-hmm.
privy to all their secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you said about the whole, lock situation, got that from a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, I wish I could do that with my hair. I got locked when
Mm-hmm.
I was 3 years ago, and now I can't do it no more. And
Yep.
so it's like I'm okay. I'm taking notes, taking notes, taking notes. And so the conversations that you see are a culmination of a lot of the notes that I've taken, not just from from there, but also from therapy as well, because my brand of therapy is not, so tell me how you feel. It's more like how we talking right now is how I
Right.
talk to my clients. We're
Mm-hmm.
having real conversations. And so again, a lot of those notes are coming from that space. And so my book then read like more like a screenplay than it did
Mm-hmm.
a book, but I didn't write a screenplay. So
Right.
I'm like, crap. And so first thing I had to do was get all the imagery. What do you see? What do the buildings look like? What do the rooms look like? Where's
Mm-hmm.
the dimensions? All these sort of things. And then take it through another round of edits. They said, I can't feel your book. You're giving me too much information. One of the parts that I love about the book when she goes and she's looking at the wall,
Mm-hmm.
that part, what those descriptions were actually in chapter one.
Hmm.
And so a person who read my book was like, dude, I don't need all these descriptions. I'm smart. Let me figure this out on my own. And that was a note you put in there too toward the
Mm-hmm.
end, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I'm like, dude,
Yep.
so I was like, oh, okay, cool. I say less. I love this. I love giving these descriptions, but let me find a way to make the readers engaged with the descriptions rather than, so this is Malaysia. This is Alexia.
Right.
This is Daisy. And so move those things around so that people can then feel it.
Right.
So did another round
Exactly.
of edits,
Right.
right? Last
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
round. Here we go. Um, you got all this therapy in you. Why aren't you telling me how these people are feeling or thinking?
Yep.
Bruh. All right, let's go again. So when we
Yeah.
finally get to 500 pages, I'm like, ain't nobody finna read this book. Not my first. This is my first book. The thing 500 pages deep. When I sent it to the editor, I told him, look, I need you to cut this down about 100 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And she cut it down 2 pages. She
Yep.
said, everything in here is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, well, these doggone people I'm querying don't think this is necessary, so I don't know what to do.
And
But
how did you make those decisions? Like, because I know there was a give and take. You couldn't, you know, change. You wouldn't change. Wouldn't want to change everything. But how did you? I know working with your editor helps you make those decisions. But what ultimately led you to final choices, or if you can describe a piece of feedback that maybe, let's say it this way, let's think of some feedback that you received or constructive criticism and was like, you know what, that's just not for me, that's not for this book, I'm a parking lot that. And then
you
what's
know,
some where you were just, well, I think we just heard a lot, we just heard quite a
oh
bit
yeah,
of some of the feedback
yeah.
that you said, nope, okay, yep, done, let's do another revision. But name some that was just sort of like off. I don't think we talk about that much. Like how I'm always interested to hear when authors have feedback and they're just like, "What? That's not right." Like it's the whole sort of death of the author theory. Like, is it
Yeah,
is
yeah,
it the
yeah.
author's intentions that matter, or is it the reader's like take or interpretation of it?
Yeah, no, so the one of the things that I got, one of the main things that I got that I just said, you know what, it's if I do this, it's not going to be it's not going to be my book anymore. Was
Mm-hmm.
the actual conversations and the banter between the characters.
Mm.
Um, one of the pieces of feedback that I got both during the editing phase and from one of my readers, current like 2 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
said that they felt like the characters um too, I guess, too black, whatever that means. In the conversations that they were having, some of the,
What?
girl please and that sort of thing.
I feel like they could
Yeah,
be blacker. Like,
I'm saying, listen, bruh, I was like, listen, this
actually,
is
I felt
black.
like it was perfect because it was just sort of like
I
the
thought
way
so
that I wrote it
too.
down is just like it's so wonderful when you can see small little anecdotal stuff of yourself, like just beside Stephanie,
Yes,
right?
and
Right
that was
beside
my
Stephanie,
intention.
right?
That
And it's
like
just
this is
go
how
ahead.
people talk. No, this is how
Exactly.
people talk. Like
Mm-hmm.
this, I don't want this to feel stilted or stiff or, this is the way it's supposed to be written in
Mm-hmm.
perfect English. Like, no, this
Mm-hmm.
is not how we talk.
Yep.
And so again, I didn't want to make them, ghetto,
Right. No, because these are
whatever that means.
right.
Right.
Right. No, they
Right.
good.
I didn't want to take it the route of blood at the root, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like super duper slang. You got to kind of prepare yourself, brace for that before you jump in.
Mm-hmm.
But I also didn't want to make it so stilted to where it didn't feel authentic. And
Right.
so with that note, I'm like, well, listen, we just gonna have to roll the dice with it.
Yeah.
Then I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I'm not gonna go back and change that. And plus, if I change it now, I gotta go back and change it. Everybody talking. I ain't got time for that.
Right.
I've already changed everything else.
You can't
So we
change
so I said,
everything.
I was like, listen, this book already 500 some pages deep. I ain't got time for another 50 pages. We added to this book. Ain't nobody gonna read this book.
So, and everybody here knows how I feel about dialogue and fresh and what urban dialogue is and black and
Mm-hmm,
even my
mm-hmm.
opinions on Blood at the Root and everything. I will say this, that Eddie's dialogue is refreshing. At many times it feels very authentic, especially when the characters are engaged one on one. And then, I didn't have many low points in this book. For me, just because I think of you think about like a book is subjective, right? In many, many ways on whether or not it's going to go off well with a reader. Um, the action scenes, I call them action paction, they were super jam packed, but it's also like, for me, there were points where I'm just like, oh, maybe I can skip these few paragraphs, right? Because they were
Yes.
like, but then there were
Mm-hmm.
times where I was just like, no, I can't, because I'm going in, I'm like, I'm finding out about the characters as they're fighting, right?
Yes,
And people,
yes.
and I just can imagine the readers, like my fella and others, who like nerd out over superheroes. And did you see that move? And they flipped and
Yo,
dipped
yo,
and da
yo,
da da
yo,
da.
yo,
And
yo,
like
yo,
at
yo.
one point, I'm picturing like one of the hostiles going back and forth like those things that sway because like they're getting knocked around in the head. Like so,
Yes, yes.
so I mean, if I could call that a low point, like that was one of the points where I was just like, oh,
It's a
maybe
lot
we
of
can get through.
whiplash. It's a
Right.
lot of whiplash.
But there
Yes.
are readers out there who are going to eat that up. You understand?
Yeah.
And
And so one of the notes that I got for that is that I need to do scene breaks. That's all. Just do scene breaks. I
yep,
don't have to like break up every single piece of the action,
yep,
but just do scene breaks to kind of give people a minute to pause.
exact.
And I
That's
think
yep.
about that when we watch TV shows. What do they put
Mhm.
in? A commercial break.
Mhm.
It's just
Mhm.
a break, a cut to black, just to kind of
Mhm.
give everybody a minute to go,
Yep.
okay,
And
next
regroup.
scene. And
Yes.
so I was like, so with the second book and moving forward, and when we go back and do a special edition of the first,
Mhm.
gonna add those scene breaks in there because it is not difficult to do. So that way it kind of
Okay.
gives people that all right, next scene, and not feel like they're being thrown all over the place
Mhm.
because it is a roller coaster to be trying to figure out who's fighting who and where we at now and all that type of stuff. So, but yeah, man, no, I love the roller coaster though. It was like yes, like just get them in and buckle up because you're gonna be in this for a while. Yes.
So you just mentioned the second edition of this one. So I want to talk about that
Mm-hmm.
and what we'll be finding in the new edition of book 1. But then I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to move past this evening without talking about book 2, when, where,
Yeah.
how we can get our hands on it.
Yeah.
And if you can give us any little tips,
I
sneak
would
peeks
love to.
here
I'd
on
love
Books and
to.
Bounty. So first,
Absolutely.
let's talk about the second edition of book 1.
So there are two different editions that we're wanting to put out.
Okay.
One by request of a lot of people, yourself included,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people that I've talked to over the past 3 months of this book coming out. Everybody's like, "Can I give this to my kids? Can I give this to my kids? Can I give this to my teens?" I didn't know how much this cover was going to impact people. I'm just trying to tell a superhero story. I didn't know how much people were gonna. I see me. I want my kids to see them in this, and by their request, we're going to do a YA edition of this book, and it will serve as kind of a template blueprint for
Mm-hmm.
how the rest of the books can go. Um, because as we've talked about, there's a lot of things. If we just cut out the spicy scene and then
Mm-hmm.
take some of the vulgarity, tone it down just a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
basically got a YA novel.
You do. Yep.
And so we're gonna work on that. It won't take but a good 2 weeks to just sit down with it and just kind of mimic, tweak some things, and we'll have a YA novel on our hands.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
second, the special edition, what I want to do is to reformat book 1 the way I want books 2 forward to look. So you're talking the maps, the glossary, You're talking right, all the goodies, like all the extra little things.
Mhm,
So we
mhm,
get the map in, we're going to get the glossary in to talk to define terms. um some of like the symbols, I know you had said briefly, that's something that we're working on too, getting the symbols, making
mhm,
sure that they're put in there. And then there's one element of, and this is just a personal pet peeve of mine now,
mm,
there's an element in the book where in between the chapter after they get their behinds handed to them,
mm,
and they start, and Malcolm says, we're gonna train hard, we're gonna do what we gotta do. In the next chapter,
mhm.
the only person that seems to be training is Malcolm and Simone. And a person who was reading the
Okay.
book made it seem like ain't nobody else doing nothing.
Right. Right.
Damn, it's
Yep.
just Malcolm and Simone fighting and training. There ain't
Mhm.
nobody, everybody else sitting on their butts doing nothing.
Mhm.
In fact,
Mhm.
is in
Mhm.
fact, Lexia says in one of the lines, I don't want to train today. I didn't know I was giving off this impression, the impression that everybody's lazy and they just sitting on their butts waiting, for Malcolm to tell them to do something. I didn't get that sentiment. Like I really got the sentiment of I got my behind handed to me. I'm tired,
Yeah. That's
and I
what I
want to sit
got.
down.
And
That's what I
honestly,
got.
I thought that we would just be getting their like stories later. Like I just thought like maybe
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like
And
it's not about
so,
them right now. Like
and that's how I felt. And so, to that end, I just want to add like a page or two
but I
that
mean if
says
you
something
wanna
to the effect.
describe
Yeah, that's
mammoth
right.
training, and
After a couple
sweating,
days of training, that's all I need. Just a paragraph. I don't even need I don't want a chapter. Just a
Mhm.
paragraph to satisfy my ego at this point, because that hurt my feelings. So for my ego to be satisfied, just a little paragraph that says they've been training, but they were doing the same thing they've always. One little thing that just says they trained, but their powers didn't increase nor decrease. They're the same people that they were. Ain't
Mhm.
nothing changed. So that it further emphasizes when Simone goes in and says, "Listen, can't keep doing the same thing expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity. So we gotta do something different just to satisfy my ego." That's all I want to put in there, because I was like, y'all getting him making my people look lazy. I don't like how y'all give this impression that they lazy.
And then
My elite ain't lazy.
they
Like
are
these,
elite.
they
What do
elite.
you mean?
Okay, they don't. Okay, they bench press 350 with a pinky. Talking about these jokers are not lazy. They tired. They just got their behinds headed in them. Their egos are hurt. They don't want to go in the training room right now. So that's book one.
Mhm.
So book two is entitled Echoes. I'm kind of scared to see. I want to see if I can screen share, but I'll leave it alone. Um, but if I could show it to you, I'd love to show it to you. So you let me know
Send
whether or
me
not I have.
send
What's
me
that? Oh,
text me
yeah,
the
you know
cover
what?
right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. I can do that. Yep, sure can. So book two is entitled Echoes. It is the continuation of the Affinity Saga. Um, and without giving too much away, essentially this is going to be a battle for the soul of Uri City.
Mm,
There is in book one, um, we start to hear the rumblings of the powered versus the unpowered,
mhm, mhm,
and that conversation takes center stage in the book. And so you get to see what happens when you have a rogue political organization
hmm,
who's coming in trying to impose their will upon the city.
hmm.
And what do the elite have to do in order to make sure that the people have free will? And it's a very, very simple yet complicated conversation that's had among the haves and the have-nots. One of the things that people have said to me about the book is that your book lacks diversity. It doesn't have diversity in it. It's all black.
Duh.
One, I don't care. Yeah, yeah, the facts, right? Who cares? Who the f cares? That's
Right.
number one. But number two, I did it that way because I didn't want the conversation to be about skin tone. We're having the same conversation between the
Yep.
powered and the unpowered.
Yep.
Same conversation, just a different context. And again, if anybody ever watched X Men, they had the same conversation,
Yep.
powered versus unpowered. So, to that end, you get to see that take center stage. In the midst of that, Simone's got some things, Malcolm's got some things, and we just get to see further threads being unraveled in such a way. As they're trying to take down this rogue political organization who is just they're juggernauts. They are juggernauts. You think book one and those adversaries were bad? Book two
Oh,
is about to take
wow.
everything you think you know about these folk and just take it to a whole nother level. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be fast paced, just like the first book. A lot of twists and turns, a lot of unexpected things that you won't see coming, and you're going to be upset with me when book two ends because it's going to be like, give me book three yesterday.
Oh, my goodness. Well, look,
Mhm.
we are about to wrap things up.
Yeah.
And I want, although we have it in the chat, let folks know. And I just put the cover up. So now we have the Infinity Theory and we have Echoes showing. Um, and look at that.
It's
The
so
color
pretty.
on there is
It's so
amazing.
pretty. It's so pretty. I love
Amazing.
that cover. It's gonna just make me cry every time I see my little children. It's so grown up.
And I was
It's so grown
what I was been telling have been telling people as I picked up the book and read it on live is that despite this book, your personality in and of itself is a big starburst as well. Like you have an infectious
up.
laugh.
Yep.
When you talk about being engaging and committing to a conversation, um, it Eddie D. Wrights is a personality in himself. Without the book or not, I'm sure we would have known you somehow, Eddie.
Yep. Oh,
And
we do.
so tell everybody where they can find out more, where they can find you.
Yeah, and everywhere that you are on social media, I am there under Eddie D Wrights. So if
Okay.
you got me here, you got me everywhere. I'm on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I don't want. I'm not gonna get a Snapchat. Snapchat is where people like to play, and I ain't got time for that.
Mm-mm.
Don't get me shot. But again, I'm everywhere that you are. When everything was going down with the whole TikTok situation, I made me a platform on all the places and got all my videos copied there. So wherever you're at, that's where I am. You can bookmark theaffinitysaga.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you get your books. That's where you're going to get more information about what I'm doing, where we're headed in the saga when we're doing updates on special editions or anything of that nature. And in any events that we have going on, trying to create an events page so that way, if there's anything like doing this interview, you'll be able to see that ahead of time and things like that. Um, but yeah, everywhere that you are, I am there under Eddie D. Wrights. And you can again bookmark theaffinitysaga.com because that's where all the things Affinity Saga is going to be from now till infinity. We also have the Affinity Saga podcast, where we do a chapter by chapter analysis of the book, my wife and I. And the latest chapter that we've done is chapter 7
Okay.
of the first book. And so each week we do another podcast that we add up to it, and we're gonna go straight to the end. And then when book two comes out, we're gonna do it again for that book as
Yes.
well.
That sounds like
And
fun.
so you can go on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, where we have a channel there, to listen to any of the episodes to get more character analysis, plot development, how we came up with things we came up with. Like one question we didn't get to today was talking about some of the Western African the African
Yeah.
lore, being
Yes.
able to
Mm-hmm.
get deeper into that because that was just an accident. I didn't know what I was doing until I got there. I was like, dude, I didn't know, but now that I do, oh, I'm gonna use this. And so you get to hear more and more about how we
That's
came
awesome.
to doing that. Yeah, listen, a con was an accident. That was a whole accident. I didn't even realize what I was doing. I just was random saying I need a name for God. Let me use a con, and then come to find out a con's a whole language. I'm like, what? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
fine, fine. Let's run with that.
Let's run
But
with
yeah,
it.
you get to hear all those little secrets and things on the podcast, and so yeah, man, that's where I'm at.
All right, y'all. Y'all heard them. Go to theInfinitySaga.com. It's in the chat, and I'll make sure it's linked in the description. Eddie is tagged here. You can find him on Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, and like he said, anywhere where you are on social media. Make sure you check out the website, check out the podcast, and more importantly, buy the book.
Buy the book. Go get you a copy. Run. Don't walk. Go get you a copy of the
Yes.
Infinity Theory, book 1 of the Affinity Saga. I got my blurb stuck in my head for life. Go get you a copy of the book. Love it, hate it. Come talk to me about it. Again, I'm an open door, open book. DM me anytime. Any questions, comments, or concerns. But thank you, man. This has been fun. I appreciate you for this
It's been
opportunity,
great.
man.
It's been
Yeah,
great, Eddie. Thank you so much. And thanks for turning the page with Books and Bounty. Until next time, I'll see you on
absolutely. See you later.
live. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for kicking it tonight here and turning the page with Books and Bounty. Earlier today, we had Eddie D. Williams, author of The Infinity Theory, creator of The Affinity Saga. Next week, we'll be meeting some more vendors from Ink and Inspiration, as well as scheduling some great talks with some of the bookish and local entrepreneurs here in the Baltimore region. Until next time, everyone, happy writing and reading.